Welcome to Friday's Northeast Tonight. Our main story:
Nissan's struggle to keep production moving in the wake of the Japanese earthquake and tsunami.
Production is paused as a mark of remembrance, but the Wearside plant will be forced to take a 3-day break due to problems in the supply chain.
Also, a financial payout to the family of a grandmother who suffered significant harm in a Teesside care home.
The new law that puts an age limit on sunbeds. We'll hear from teenage tanners and a skin cancer survivor.
And all aflutter over the Grand National. We ask a racing expert with a winning streak for his top tip. Management at Nissan are drawing up contingency plans to minimise disruption caused by problems in getting parts from Japan. The company announced yesterday it would stop production at its Sunderland plant for 3 days over Easter.
The situation is being monitored almost daily. A strong aftershock in Japan yesterday registered 7.4 on the Richter scale. Today, staff dug deep for a Red Cross fund to help those affected by the earthquake and tsunami and put any concern about their own jobs to one side, as Kenny Toll reports.
It's one of the busiest production lines in the region, but today everything stopped. Workers at Nissan stood together and in silence. A time to remember those affected by events in Japan. Events that will force this production line to grind to a halt again in just a few weeks' time. 3 non-production days have been announced over Easter to cope with the problem of getting parts from Japan to Wearside.
In our immediate supply chain, we're going to experience some short-term problems with part supply from Japan because of the earthquake. So we thought we'd pull some holidays forward to minimise that disruption. We've positioned them within the Easter bank holidays to give staff a longer break.
The company insists this is a short-term problem, though with yesterday's aftershock, it is a situation that could change day by day. Today, though, thoughts here were not on the long term, but on the immediate. Japan Day, a chance for staff here to dig deep and make their own contribution.
Nissan may be a global company, but it's a company that says it feels very much like a family. This factory in Sunderland may be thousands of miles away from Japan, but the staff here said they wanted to do something to help. And this is a statement that's hard to ignore.
Obviously, we've got very close links with Japan. We've been travelling there for 25 years now. And the images we saw in the news were very shocking, to be honest. And in Nissan, we've lost 5 group employees. They've died in the disaster. And, you know, there's 12,000 people died, so we just felt we had to do something.
And it's a gesture that will mean as much in sentiment as it does in monetary terms to their counterparts thousands of miles away. Kenny Toll in Sunderland.
The family of a grandmother who suffered significant harm in a Middlesbrough care home have received a payout. Grace Allenby died after being moved from Grove Lodge to another nursing home in 2008. The 88-year-old, who had cancer of the face, was covered in bruises and sores. An inquest into Mrs Allenby's death ruled she died of natural causes but did not receive the appropriate level of care from a number of agencies. An undisclosed sum was paid by the care home's owner and Middlesbrough Primary Care Trust.
The Royal College of Nursing says up to 116 jobs could go among frontline health staff working in prisons across the North East. The service, which until recently came from an NHS provider, operates in places like Frankland and Durham prisons, where nurses provide medication and mental health advice to inmates. The contract to supply health care was recently transferred to a private company.
Cleveland and Durham police forces have merged their firearms and traffic departments into a new single unit. Responsibilities of the new Special Operations Team include firearms training and investigating crash scenes and vehicle thefts. It's estimated the forces will save between £300,000 and £400,000 in the first year alone.
Now, there's growing concern over the potential impact of dozens of job losses among Forestry Commission staff in the North East region.
Ministers say compulsory redundancies will be avoided wherever possible, but campaigners say cutting staff could damage the environment. Ruth Holliday reports.
Around a quarter of the UK's timber comes from the North East, but that's not all our woodlands and forests are used for. The Forestry Commission is planning to shed almost 30% of its staff, closing the region's 2 visitor centres at Hampsterley and Kielder, and potentially making forest rangers an endangered species. Liz Searle's been a volunteer at Chopwell Woods in the Derwent Valley for 20 years. She says the rangers play a crucial role.
It's really about the woodland being neglected and the paths becoming overgrown, drainage ditches blocked. It's about the loss of support for the Friends group and the volunteer work we do. We do need a bit of minimum support, otherwise the big society will just get smaller.
Forests and woodlands across the region have already seen their ranger staffing levels reduce dramatically. Here at Chopwell, they had a full-time ranger 5 years ago. Now it's 1 day a week. Campaigners and volunteers fear it could soon mean no rangers at all.
If the rug's pulled from under our feet, we can no longer do the conservation work we do, put on the events we do. We rely on a little bit of help.
The cuts would also mean the loss of the Forestry Commission's Rothbury office, which employs 12 staff. A final decision on the cuts is yet to be made, and ministers say compulsory redundancies will be avoided if possible. But in a region that relies on its woodlands for timber and tourism, the swing of the axe could hit hard. Ruth Holliday in the Derwent Valley.
The North East Autism Society opened a new facility in Homeside in County Durham today. It's the first of its kind in this region.
Sunderland chairman Niall Quinn is the Society's patron, and he was there for the grand opening. Andy Kerr reports.
Well done, everyone. The new facility is designed to help teach young adults with autism, from those with a mild form of the condition right through to the other end of the spectrum. It's set in 77 acres of farmland, which includes a full working farm, live-in accommodation and classrooms for woodwork, textiles and floristry. Set in the village of Homeside, it's 10 minutes drive from Chester Street. It's a first for this part of the county and has been described as a real step forward in the approach to the condition.
To see all that in work is one thing, but to understand where it's come from with adults with autism, for my lifetime anyway, all I know is people in that area, they've been contained. Whereas this whole project is not about containment, it's about advancing them. It's a real success story, so it's great to be here, and you know, it's amazing.
It's taken just 12 months to build the centre, funded by the Autism Society, and they hope to sell the products made in these classrooms and at the working egg and fruit farms to remain self-sufficient.
I make lots of different flower arrangements. I made those ones over there.
Will you be able to sell these now?
Yeah, I'll be able to sell them.
And I like the train sets as well. Well, not as a train sets. The steam trains. I used to build them up with wood and make the circles for the windows and that.
The aim is to teach all students here a skill that they can then take back into their own community. Andy Kerr reporting in County Durham.
Stay with us because still to come on tonight's programme. A new law is in force banning teenage tanning, but will it be possible to enforce?
Now, celebrations have begun to mark the centenary of one of Teesside's iconic landmarks.
Yes, some of the millions who've used Middlesbrough's Transporter Bridge have been sharing their experiences in a special book. Claire Montgomery was at the launch.
Well, it's a structure that dominates the landscape here on Teesside, and in its heyday 5 million people crossed over the Tees on a gondola each year to their work in the steelworks or the shipyards. And with me now is Dave Allen, who's written this special book about the history of the Transporter Bridge. Dave, it's the engineering that really took your eye.
I'm no engineer, but it is a beautiful piece of Edwardian engineering and design, I think. I think it's artwork as much as engineering, and I've just always had this really special affection for the bridge as our local icon and the symbol of Teesside as a whole, not just Middlesbrough.
And Maurice Taylor, you're 91 now, but you worked on this bridge back in the 1940s.
I worked on the bridge in 1948 for Dorman Long. Bridge Department.
And you're featured in this book, so tell us, what was it like up there in those days?
Well, it was varied. We went up there in thunder and lightning, and we couldn't come down. 7 days a week.
It's people like Maurice that have helped you put together this book. Memories for you that have stood out?
My favourite tale is definitely the fact that the bridge was bombed both in the First World War and the Second World War. What is amazing, can you really imagine a Zeppelin airplane flying over the transporter, come over from Germany. It's bombed Sunderland already with tragedy as well, but it missed the transporter completely, and the bomb went straight through the steelwork and into the river, so a lucky escape for the transporter that day.
Amazing story, and the book's launched today, and that's just the start of celebrations here on Teesside to mark that centenary.
Thank you, Claire. Right, loads of sport over the next couple of days. Here's our weekend preview.
WeBuyAnyCar.com sponsors the North East Tonight Sport Report.
At the moment, Newcastle and Sunderland are hovering above the relegation dogfight in the Premier League, but considering their opponents this weekend, they have every reason to be looking over their shoulders.
The Black Cats entertain West Brom at the Stadium of Light tomorrow, and the Magpies face an away trip to Aston Villa on Sunday. Philip Roscoe takes a look at the action ahead.
Survival is the name of the game this weekend, but it's not on Steve Bruce's agenda. Well, not yet anyway. It's Sunderland's opponents who are battling relegation. West Brom are in town, and with them they bring form. Victories over Liverpool and Birmingham and a draw against Arsenal in their last three suggest there'll be no pushovers. But the Black Cats are looking to end a dismal run that's seen them take just 1 point in 7 matches, and the manager says games like these are a must-win.
It's been a terrible run for us, a couple of months. We have to finish off strongly. We've got the games on paper anyway to be able to do it. We couldn't have wished for a better run in. We knew we had to get over this hurdle. Hopefully we're over it. Can we go and get a win? If we get a win, we could be sitting here talking on Monday morning being in 7th position or joint 7th position. That's what we've got to try and aim for.
Newcastle United's hosts Aston Villa are also hovering above the drop zone. 2 years ago the Magpies were relegated at Villa Park. This time the visitors could put a dent in their survival hopes.
They've got some very, very good players, and now the fight is on. I expect them to respond to that. But we're a tough cookie at the moment, and we won't be easy to turn over.
There's some good news for Newcastle on the injury front. Hatton Ben Arthur could be back in action soon after breaking his leg in October last year.
Hatton has come back, and he will train next week with the development squad here to ease him back in. And then the week after that, we hope that he'll be training with the first team. He's got a smile on his face. He wants to play. He's chomping at the bit, as they say. So we're hoping to see him soon.
Philip Roscoe reporting.
Well, Middlesbrough have an away day at relegation strugglers Sheffield United in the Championship. This week, manager Tony Mowbray and left-back Joe Bennett joined over 100 youngsters in playing a range of sports as part of a scheme to look ahead to the London Olympics. Looking to tomorrow's game at Bramall Lane, Borough have a 10-point cushion over the Blades and a game in hand.
I like to come down and do these community events, you know, and see all the kids having a good time, which is good, and keeping them active. We know what we need to do. We need another 3 points, probably safe with another 3 points, so hopefully we'll be able to get that.
I can see that they're fighting. I can see they've got targets. They need to get some points on the board quickly, and so we expect a very, very tough game, very competitive game, and but one that we've shown ourselves over the last month that we're capable of standing up to.
And there's some other football to tell you about this weekend. Hartlepool take on Yeovil at Victoria Park in League One. In the Blue Square Bet Premier, Darlington could overtake Bath City with a win at the Arena. Gateshead entertain bottom of the table Histon, and York are still chasing the playoffs. They're at home to Newport County.
Big weekend for non-league football, but perhaps the most important fixture in the region at the weekend takes place at Kingston Park tomorrow. The Newcastle Falcons meet Leeds. It's a huge relegation showdown at the foot of Rugby Union's Premiership. Leeds are bottom of the table. They beat Exeter last week to move within striking distance of Newcastle. Both sides have games to play after this, so it's not quite all or nothing tomorrow, but it will go a long way towards deciding who goes down.
Hopefully we get a packed house here, and we love our fans, and they're very vocal, and it gives us a lot of confidence. So we'll be looking forward to a big crowd here, and they'll definitely be an extra player on the field.
There's still plenty points to go for, and as I say, this game is important because it would give us a little bit of a buffer. But at the end of the day, we know we've got plenty of rugby left, and that's how I want us to approach it. I don't want us to think that this is the end of the season, whatever happens to this game.
We haven't quite finished with sports. We'll take a look at some of our links with the Grand National a little later.
Now, though, here's what's making the headlines in the ITV News at 6:30.
Death on the Hunter-killer sub. A sailor opens fire on colleagues. One man thought to be an officer was left dead, another seriously wounded on board HMS Astute as she made a goodwill visit to Southampton. Plus, read all about it. The News of the World finally admits hacking celebrity phones, says sorry, and offers big compensation payments. Join Julie and me for the ITV News at 6:30.
Now, a hot topic. Sunbeds are once again in the news as a law comes into force banning under-18s from using them, and salon owners are facing a fine of up to £20,000 if they flout the law.
Statistics show an average 6% of 11 to 17-year-olds in the UK get on sunbeds. For example, in Sunderland, 1 in 5 girls in that age bracket use them. The report also showed at least 2 people under the age of 35 are diagnosed with malignant melanoma every day. And half of all 15, 16 and 17-year-old girls on Wearside use tanning machines.
Some terrifying stats. In a moment, we'll be talking to one woman who blames sunbeds for her skin cancer. First, this report from Rachel Sweeney.
Tanning is big business in the city of Sunderland.
It's just if you've got the tan, you want to show it off. And if you haven't, you're dying for one. Everybody is.
I can see for a town like Sunderland, the amount of businesses that will go bust. So I can see it from both sides.
Cancer research has found that block bookings are more common in our region.
So you can go on as many times as you want for that particular month, and then you just renew your fee.
So you don't stop people overusing the sunbed?
No, they can use as many times as they want. I'd recommend it. Anybody use the sunbed?
There's ultraviolet radiation in both sunbed rays and natural sunlight. But here in Sunderland, it seems faking it is not enough.
I think they should keep it down to 16 and over. So under 18s, they're still going on, aren't they? So
now I wouldn't let my daughter go before she was 18. Her choice after 18, but my choice before.
Kids, I think now kids look older than what they are though as well, so I think some kids can get away with pretending that they're 18 and get on some beds.
The question is bronzing worth it?
Well, let's discuss this more now. We are joined by Michelle Grimmer. She used sunbeds for 20 years from being in her teens and was diagnosed with malignant melanoma in 2007. Michelle, the statistics, they are scary, aren't they? Yeah. What would you say to young girls who are using those sunbeds?
Basically, don't use sunbeds. I know it's hard when you're at that age because you want to look good. You know, the tan gives you the confidence. It raises your self-esteem, but it's really not worth it. I used sunbeds for a long, long time, from the age of 18 onwards, and you know the consequences from using sunbeds. You know.
Was it that confidence and self-esteem that you were seeking?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having a tan does make you feel better about yourself. It does give you confidence. And when you're at that age, you know, you're going out, learning new experiences, meeting boys.
So perhaps the key thing is to give these youngsters other ways of achieving that.
Absolutely. You know, there's plenty of products out there on the market now. Spray tanning, false tan. You know, there's lots
not expensive
more.
Either, is it?
No, not at all.
And you were saying that using sunbeds for you was an obsession. You had one in your home. Just tell us how often you used one.
I use sunbeds a lot. I use sunbeds every day for a long time.
How many minutes?
20 minutes a time, but it was kind of where you used to turn the dial and you were in control of the sunbed, basically. And I do believe you can be obsessed with it.
A lot of people did, though. We were talking earlier, we were saying you drive down the streets and you see the blue lights.
Yeah, in everybody's bedroom, yeah.
It was one of those things. Hopefully we've been educated out of that, and it really is worrying that this young generation haven't been.
But you do go into schools now, don't you, talking to young people, well, girls and boys,
absolutely,
about the dangers. That must have an effect on them.
It does. I think, you know, I believe in early intervention and going in, kind of nipping it in the bud when they're at an earlier age before they do get to that stage where they do think about the appearance. And I think, you know, 13, 14-year-olds need to be educated about sunbed usage and the dangers. And I think a little bit of life experience from myself is really hitting home a little bit, rather than kind of, you know, bits and pieces in the media.
When we introduced you, we said you were diagnosed in 2007.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Enjoying life. I'm living it the full. I've got a fantastic family, and
the operation was successful. And
I still go for my checkups, which is which is really good because I do get checked.
But that's never going to go away, is it? You've always got to be ultra
absolutely
cautious.
Factor 50 when the sun's out. I still enjoy the sun because it's good to get your vitamin D, but yeah, protect my skin.
So the lesson is that it just is not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Michelle, thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Good to meet you. Now, back to sport. Tomorrow afternoon, the country will come to a standstill for the most famous horse race in the world. Of course, the Grand National. It's always a big day, has a special place in the hearts of people up and down the country.
But this year, it is particularly important in one corner of our region. A trainer looking to follow in his father's illustrious footsteps, and a man who hopes to cap a life lived in racing with one more moment of glory. Ryan Dollard has this story.
There you go, big boy.
The broad shoulders of Skipper's Brig carried big hopes in the world's most gruelling horse race. It's 27 years since Hello Dandy brought Grand National glory to Cumbria. Back then it was Gordon Richards running the show. This year his son Nicky has the chance to make history of his own.
It's a very famous race, probably the most famous race in the world, the Grand National. It would mean a tremendous amount to everybody at Greystoke. Mean a hell of a lot to all of us, you know. Hopefully he's going along nicely with a mile to go. I'll be holding my breath every jump and hoping we're going to get a smooth passage right to the end.
He would be Nicky's first national winner. He is Larry Poland's last shot at glory. The lad who looked after 1984 champion Hello Dandy now cares for Skipper's Brig.
You're retiring at the end of the season, Larry. How much will you miss this life you've had in racing?
Well, naturally you miss the things you've done all your life. I've been to the National that many times, I've forgotten how many times I've been. But doing one winner and a couple of place horses has been good over the years. Been lucky.
Is Skipper's Brig going to give you a perfect retirement present?
Well, I'd love to think so, but it's like everything else, you've got to have everything go your way there on the day. As you know, you've got to get round for the start. No matter how good you are, you've got to get round, you've got to have luck on your side. So I hope it's really at the end of the day we're lucky.
Well, he certainly looks in tip-top condition, but this is a horse that loves the mud. He'll be hoping it's a lot darker and dirtier over the skies of Aintree than it is here on a glorious day in Greystoke. It's nearly 30 years since Hello Dandy brought the biggest prize in racing back to this part of the world. Come Saturday afternoon, will Skipper's Brig be bathed in glory? Ryan Dollard in Greystoke.
Not only bathed in glory, will he be drinking beer?
Great pictures, weren't
Yeah, so who is going to win that big race tomorrow? Fingers crossed if you've got Skipper's Brig in the office sweepstake.
I'll be making a cheeky trip to the bookies in the morning along with thousands of others, but if you're looking for a top tip, then stand by, we have some inside information for you.
Yes, one man from our region has made the Grand National his life's work. In fact, he can even claim some of the credit for last year's winner, as Simon O'Rourke reports.
2010 was the year the great Tony McCoy filled in the one blank on his CV by winning the Grand National at the 15th attempt. The winning horse was Don't Push It, but AP nearly didn't ride that one. He was expected to ride a horse called Can't Buy Time. A man from Tyneside helped McCoy make the right decision. Bob Smith is a Grand National expert. He'd had correspondence with McCoy and his team a few years beforehand. Then last year, he got a phone call.
Which one should it be, Bob? Is it Can't Buy Time or Don't Push It that Tony should ride in the National? I says, I'll give you an honest answer. I says, Can't Buy Time is a bit of a dodgy jumper. He's already fell in the National, and I've seen him run this year, and McCoy was lucky to stay on the horse, and I wouldn't ride that round the Aintree. So I says, I know Don't Push It has a fair bit of weight, but it's a much better jumper, and I think it will still be standing at the end. And if you stand at the end, you have a chance to win the Grand National. And that's my honest opinion. If you ask me to ride a horse, I'd ride Don't Push It.
That's what Tony did. The signed photos and the special cards are signs of McCoy's gratitude.
Many thanks for all your help. Glad I rode your choice.
I bet he is.
Yep.
So the greatest chapter in the life story of the greatest jump jockey may never have been written if it wasn't for Bob. Of course, as for Aintree and the Grand National itself, Tony McCoy's win was just another tale to tell. There's always a story in the world's favourite race. Perhaps that's why we love it so much.
We don't know what's going to happen. It is one of the only races in the world where the line-up, we don't know what is going to happen in the next 10 minutes. There's so many stories in it.
Tony McCoy rides Don't Push It again this year, but Bob doesn't think that combination will win it again, which leaves one obvious question, and I need to ask it more than most.
Bob, I've actually got a 100% record in the National. I have never, ever backed the winner. You've got to help me out. What's going to win this year?
State of play. No problem. He's the right age. He's got a good jockey on his back. All he needs now is that little piece of luck. I think it's going to take some beating. Really will take some beating, state of play. If he gets out in front, they ain't going to catch him.
There you go. State of play to win. Skipper's brig each way. Can't lose. Now, you don't need us to tell you that today has been a sunny one right across the region. Even better, it's set to last throughout the weekend.
Yeah, the weather is looking good for the Grand National tomorrow, and one popular spot is looking typically gorgeous in the sunshine tonight. Rachel Bullock is live for us in Saltburn by the Sea on Teesside. I apologise. Rachel, is it still nice and warm there?
Yes, take a look at that. An absolutely beautiful view. What a glorious end to what's been a glorious day right across the region. Visitors here to Saltburn on Teesside have been enjoying paddling in the sea, eating ice cream and generally making the most of this gorgeous weather. But this picture postcard image has been shared in other areas across the region as well. For example, Bitts Park over in Carlisle, where there's been lots of picnics and dog walking to be had. An absolutely wonderful day. But the hottest place in Britain today was actually in North Yorkshire, Dishforth, which hit a glorious 22 degrees Celsius. The great news is that the rest of the northeast and Cumbria are expected to share those sorts of temperatures tomorrow, which will rival destinations such as Barcelona and Rome. How lucky are we, and what great news, of course, for the region's tourist industry as well. Well, joining me now is Zora Zankoudi, who's from Redcar and Cleveland Council. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
What a great start to the weekend, and of course the children's Easter school holidays.
Isn't it? We've got a great start to the holiday season for Saltburn. I mean, this year is Saltburn's 150th birthday, so throughout the year we'll be celebrating with some great events and exhibitions, such as our Time and Tide exhibition by Lawrence Giles, which are currently featuring on the pier.
Plenty to do here then.
Oh, yes.
Great news for the local economy, for shops and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Saltburn gets more than 500,000 visitors every year, and we want to encourage more. I mean, you know, for the visitors, we've got a great beach, we've got the Valley Gardens, the Cliff Lift, and the town itself. Really good galleries, great restaurants, and some really quirky shops. Something for everyone here in Saltburn.
Lots of ice creams to be sold this weekend.
Absolutely, yes.
I just wish I had a pound for every barbecue that will be held across the region this weekend. Yeah. We'd be rich women, wouldn't we?
We would.
The question is, how long will this sunny weather last for?
That is the question. Well, let's get more on that from those in the know. Here's Kerry Gosney with the forecast.
Designing your new window just became a breeze. iwantawindow.com, sponsors of ITV Regional Weather.
Hello, good evening. All of our weather data for North Yorkshire today have brought back temperatures above 20 Celsius. It's been a dry, warm and sunny one across all parts of the region. Staying that way, certainly inland tomorrow, a bit more cloud at the coast, a cooler feel there, and there will be a bit more cloud as we head into Sunday. But for this evening, we stick with the blue sky, the sunshine, fairly warm temperatures, at least for daylight hours, and those winds remaining light. Overnight tonight, dry with clear spells inland. Most of us escaping a frost, lows of 5 or 6 Celsius in light winds, but the winds are moving in from a southeasterly direction tonight. That will drag a bit of moisture and cloud directly at the coast, certainly by the time we reach dawn, when the sun will rise around 19 minutes past 6, setting again just before 8. So a coolish start for Saturday morning. We're always expecting a little bit more cloud at the coast tomorrow. We're hoping it will thin and break and there'll be some sunshine there, but certainly the best of any sunshine should be inland. Again, plenty of blue sky, and by the time we reach the afternoon, very possible to get highs of around 20 Celsius again. In light winds pushing in from that south-southeasterly direction. Bit more cloud, at least for a time on Sunday, with some light rain and drizzle, but it should improve. It cools off by Tuesday. See you later.
iwantawindow.com, sponsors of ITV Regional Weather.
And before we go, I want to show you and you a photograph. It was sent in by Katrina Donaldson. She's 12 years old. She lives in Lockerbie. Here you go. That's her 7-week-old working collie, a new little pup. Guess what she's called it? She's called it Pip. There you go.
I tell you what, some people lend their name to babies. I lend my name to dogs. I'm very flattered though.
Your
Thank you very
namesake
much.
to take us into the weekend. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.